Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today I want to zoom out a little bit, so to speak, and talk about the much larger and broader idea that led me to propose a hydrogen-powered streetcar in Long Beach. Ever since I was a toddler, every time my family would drive by some abandoned railroad tracks, I would crane my neck and try and get a good look. Where did the train used to go? Why did it fall into disuse? Would it benefit the public if it was brought back to life? Once I was old enough to go exploring on my own, I would follow overgrown railroad tracks for hours, trying to imagine where they used to go and how long ago they stopped being used. This fascination, this obsession with lost railroads, has stuck with me to this day, but new reasons for it have developed as I've learned more about the history of passenger rail in the United States, and as of late become increasingly excited about the possibilities that exist for such rail in the future of cities like Long Beach. Long Beach, like most other Southern Californian cities, was built around passenger rail lines financed and built by real estate tycoons such as Henry Huntington. But
for the tremendous development and progress of this amazing area, coupled with its usually pleasant climate, has brought a never-ending stream of population pouring into Los Angeles and the surrounding communities. Mass production of modern houses with liberal financing arrangements enabled many thousands of young Americans to own their own homes for the first time.
Near the lake, there now arose a city, built by subdividers who had planned it. Planned it as no other American city had been planned since Lafayette laid out the District of Columbia 170 years ago.
we lost those very arteries connecting different neighborhoods with one another in the years of the post-war building boom. The time when middle-class GIs returning home from the war purchased cars and homes in the suburbs of our cities, creating urban sprawl, while an excessive reliance on the private automobile began to characterize urban and suburban life throughout the country.
Congress responded with the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, providing the staggering sum of $51 billion to be spent by the states on highway construction by 1971. The most talked about phase of the act is the interstate highway system, a 41,000-mile network of our most important roads. Most of these roads will be 4, 6, even 8-lane expressways constructed for through traffic. They will take the over-the-road driver from city to city, coast to coast, at highway speeds, even through large population centers.
Both politicians and the public came to yield the automobile as a silver bullet for the transportation needs of Americans, leading to alternative forms of transit being underfunded and largely neglected in infrastructure spending all throughout the 1960s, 70s, and through to the present day. Even now, federal transit funding for government-owned passenger railroad Amtrak is outweighed by federal highway spending more than 50 to 1. Part of this is a consequence of the freeway system's massive expansion in the post-war years to a road network of over 4 million miles, all of which must now be constantly repaired and maintained. While roads are generally less expensive to build than railroads, they cost far more to maintain per mile than railroad tracks. And with the exception of a small fraction of highways that require a toll be paid in order to use the road, generate no revenue. Railroads, on the other hand, while often at least partially subsidized with tax dollars, those subsidies are actually generally offset by ticket sale revenue, ultimately saving the taxpayer money over highways. Build trains, spend more now, pay less later. Build roads and save money now, pay more money later. It's that simple. With the decline of the private railroad industry in the 1970s, accumulating with the bankruptcy of the Penn Central Railroad and numerous other privately owned railroads throughout the country, many lines that had been required to provide passenger service by law were abandoned when their respective railroads went bankrupt due to a combination of poor management, excessive tax burdens, and the rise of the automobile. And these abandoned, mostly disused, or otherwise maligned relics of pre-World War II America are everywhere. Depending on how long ago a line was abandoned and the subsequent decisions made once under public ownership, abandoned lines like this can be more or less visible. The tracks may be present, rusting away in neglect, or they may have been removed entirely, leaving only an intact strip of undeveloped or partially developed land. Many of the landscaped medians often found in the roads of Long Beach and throughout Southern California, little useless parks that look nice but nobody walks their dog in due to their strange sizes and locations, were actually once rail lines. lines. This is true for the medians of 2nd Street in both Belmont Shore and Naples Island. Some were simply paved over in their entirety and turned into roads for cars, such as the lower eastbound lane of Livingston Avenue. Whether or not the tracks remain following abandonment generally depends on how wealthy an area is. Poorer areas tend to retain the rails themselves, while richer neighborhoods often remove them and landscape the old routes. But they remain, at least for now, still quite clear to see with the benefit of some historical knowledge and a bird's eye view. So, you might be wondering what that bigger picture is that I brought up in the beginning of this video, while others might have already guessed what I'm getting at here. Those old lines, we should use them for transit, right? Despite the total loss of the actual railroad infrastructure in some cases, these strips of disused right-of-way, which litter the American cityscape, are usually at least partly publicly owned, and therefore would be a bargain to bring back to life, saving the taxpayer hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars over the cost of building a line between the exact same 2 points only a few hundred feet away from the existing line. There is no more prohibitive cost in developing a new transit line than real estate. And we can actually do something with this knowledge and develop these as light rail transit lines now, before the rights of way are sold off and subdivided, saving ourselves billions over the costs of developing similar lines a few decades down the road. Does anybody really think people are going to stop moving to sunny, nearly winterless Southern California anytime soon? I didn't think so. I know I'm not going anywhere. So we have to be ready to welcome our new neighbors from the cold northern states of the US and throughout the world. And we're not going to be able to do that without developing an expansive, world-class light rail transit network. Otherwise, nobody, not even those of us who want to, will be able to practically own and drive a vehicle around here once the population density reaches its inevitable breaking point. So building a reliable, fast, and comfortable light rail alternative to total automobile dependence is going to be an inevitability as population density soars throughout Los Angeles, Long Beach, Orange County, and all throughout Southern California. But it is only going to be cheap if we do it now, before things get out of hand. We can avoid the problems now being confronted in densely settled areas like West Hollywood, where residents are only now finally going to get a subway extension, paid for with several $billion in funding from Measure M. Unlike West Hollywood, though, we here in Long Beach and the surrounding communities actually still have a few intact light rail corridors that have not yet been divided piecemeal for housing. If we were to turn only a few of these into regional light rail lines, our transit map could quite swiftly go from looking like this, to looking like this, then perhaps this, and beyond. A lot more of you might consider using mass transit than do now if it could get you right to your destination in a similar amount of time as driving. Would you not? What if it could get you there in less time? Some of you might now be thinking, what's wrong with our bus system? And the answer to that question, nothing. There's nothing wrong with the public buses operated by Metro, Long Beach Transit, Torrance Transit, OCTA, and other municipal agencies in the area. In fact, they're great. Our local bus systems are clean, safe, super affordable, and on time more often than not, although not quite as often as Metro Rail. But they cannot be the entire picture of mass transit in Southern California, or even in Long Beach, simply because they take so much longer than driving. Time is money, man. Buses work best for short hops to destinations that are a bit further than you would want to walk or bike from a train station. But the further you travel on a bus, the more one will find that the overall speed of the journey becomes hampered by the compounding factors of frequent stopping, picking up and waiting for passengers to pay the fare, and the fundamental vulnerability of buses to be delayed by the same traffic congestion as suffered by private motorists, only exacerbated by the enormous size and lack of maneuverability of a bus. As a result, and you can check this on your phone yourself if you think I'm exaggerating, interurban bus journeys during peak hours often take more than 3 times as long as driving between the same 2 locations in a car. But the best approach to these fundamental shortcomings of bus transit is to use buses properly within a larger framework of public transportation infrastructure. Buses on shared city streets simply don't work well for interurban journeys, and buses work better when they're used only for that last stretch of travel from the train station to your destination. Public transit works the best when these networks are developed with a strong, efficient, and fast arterial foundation of a solid rail network is complemented with reliable bus service from train stations to anywhere the train can't go due to either a lack of demand and density in the service area or simply geographic obstacles that have not yet been overcome. That's all for now. Thanks again for tuning in, and please do like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. Do you hate driving on the 405 as much as I do? Join me next time as we explore the possibility of developing direct rail service for a massive bargain between downtown Long Beach and Lomita, Torrance, and perhaps even Los Angeles International Airport by using the existing disused rail line already bought and paid for by the county.